Is Classic WoW really dead? It's a sad thought, but the answer seems pretty simple. There are less than 50 players on the servers consistently. I played on Whitemane, which was one of the biggest West Coast servers, and now it's just a desolate wasteland. I'm not going to spend time bashing Blizzard in this video. It's pretty obvious how poorly they have been doing recently. I just want to talk about Classic WoW for a second. I think all of us who played Classic WoW on private servers before the official release knew how rocky Blizzard was towards this game. However, when they announced Classic WoW, I for one thought that they were actually listening, and to some credit they were. Classic WoW was very good at launch all the way up until the launch of TBC. It wasn't perfect though. While it never really bothered me, things such as the launch of Phase 2 with the world PvP system and the weird itemization Blizzard went with left a sour taste in many hardcore players' mouths. There were other things, of course, such as the awful world buff meta, but were any of these systems actively killing the game? It's possible, but I don't think it's that likely. I mean, after all, Classic had an enormous player base throughout its entire life cycle. But there's that word again, life cycle. I mean, the game's not dead, right? You can still play it, right? It's an MMO. 27 people is really not that massive. I'm happy that games like Final Fantasy XIV are booming now, but I am sad to see WoW go. I'm gonna be honest, if WoW Classic had a healthy player base, I'd still be playing this game. But this game is deader than Warcraft 3 Reforged. What the fuck is this shit? Recently, Blizzard did a Classic Fresh PTR or something. I don't know. Everyone thinks we're getting Classic Fresh, which is exciting, but I'm skeptical about that. But if that does happen, which would be very PogChamp, I'll talk about the changes I would like to see and not see. I'm just gonna steal Asmongold's thing as it's an easy jumping off point. Alright, this shit's been way too sappy. Let's get serious! Okay, here are the main things I agree with. No mage boosting. Fuck that shit. It's boring. Level up your character normally, you pussy! New raids would be awesome! I think in general making Classic harder is okay, just as long as it's actually more challenging and not just bigger numbers. No world buffs and raids, oh my fucking god! Rebalancing things? I'm not sure about this one, that's a pretty big change, but also having idiot players not let a player in because they're playing a Ret Paladin or a Moonkin, even though their tank is a fucking idiot and only knows how to press 2 buttons? Yeah, we should probably change this one. Fuck no respec costs, you pussy. Earn some gold, bitch. I think I'm fine with summoning stones. I don't think this really takes away from the flavor of the warlock class, so sure. Overall, I'm not for any changes that are just not inherently vanilla, so fuck new classes, fuck AoE looting and achievements, and none of that shit. For some of the little stuff here, like nerfing repair costs, no, that's stupid. Respawning in the inside of an instance after wiping, I mean, that's fine, I don't really care. I am fine with rare spawn events that are actually, like, good, but again, it's just such a minor thing, I don't think it would change much. The biggest thing on this section of the list, pre-made group finder like in retail WoW. Now, I think based on my other answers, you're gonna be like, he's gonna say fuck that shit. No! We need a pre-made group finder. Now, the only thing I'm worried about is if they add a group finder, they're gonna make it like Dungeon Finder, which is not what I want. I just want a pre-made group finder. I don't want any of the teleporting. I don't want any rewards. I just want to be able to find like a message board where I can make a group instead of having to spam in Stormwind. Yes, I play a tank, but it is still annoying when I'm playing on my rogue or something and I can't find a group. Moving swiftly along, a lot of these ones are very minor, so I'm just gonna blaze right through them. Rebalancing racials would be nice, however, I would like them not to be removed. Race identity is very important, however, they are very unbalanced. New hard dungeons would be so sick. One of my biggest gripes about Classic WoW is that once you hit 60, basically all you're doing is gearing up and then you're doing raids, and if you don't want to do raids, you're kind of out of luck. So adding something like a new hardcore or heroic dungeon system and would even encourage new builds, like new talent setups. There's so many. Yes, definitely add this change. A lot of this other stuff is really random and not very much in the spirit of vanilla. It's just sort of cool things that other games have. But more flight paths, sure. Faster battle reses, yeah, sure, who cares. Consumable revamp, I don't really understand. I mean, I guess I understand that people don't like it, but it's classic. That's just sort of how the game is. That changing that seems dumb to me. Instant mail is fine. They should definitely get rid of spell batching. All of the other stuff is like fine, I guess. New zones, obviously. Voice acting. Forced max of 55, 45 in PvP servers would be interesting because you wouldn't have Horde dominated or Alliance dominated servers, but I don't actually know how they'd be able to do that, and I don't really trust Blizzard at managing that, so I'm gonna say no on that one. So those are all the changes that I would love to see with Classic Fresh. I mean, it's probably inevitable that they're gonna change some things just because no one is playing the game right now, and I don't see that changing for a while. I remember there was plenty of videos last year that were like, is it too late to start playing Classic WoW in 2020? And I always saw those and thought it was such a dumb question because game had just such an active and lively community. I mean, it was crazy to think that someone could see this game and be like, this game is dead. But if you ask that question as of August 2021, the game is quite literally dead. There's no one. It's sad. Spot I saw him last, my most noble friend and my valiant protector, short in stature but big in heart. It was he, Bald Pally, who made this game fun. If you're still playing Classic, my final piece of advice, my parting words are just quit. Wait, isn't there such a thing as other MMOs? Playing Guild Wars 2 as a Classic Andy was one of the easiest switches of my life to the point where I forgot I made it. Now, I'm not claiming that if you play Classic WoW, you'll 100% enjoy this game. They're actually kind of different. For example, this game is much more casual oriented as well as not being very grindy at all. Now, trust me, there is still grinding. But it's just focused a lot more towards the end game with specific items and weapons versus just grinding to 60 trying to get to raids. For example, if you are super hellbent on doing a raid or a dungeon boss to get a specific piece of loot that increases your gear and makes you a stronger character, this game might not be for you. I'm just going to tell you that right now. This game has a very specific progression system. For example, you don't just go in and kill a boss to get a specific piece of loot. Now, there are some things you can do that with, but that's not the main way you're going to get loot. There's basically your normal tiers of loot. You got your common, uncommon, rare, epic, and your blues and all that stuff. However, unlike WoW, once you get, let's say, your legendary gear. You know how in Classic you get Thunder Fury? That's never going to get replaced, really. Well, in this game, every purple piece of gear that you get is basically Thunder Fury. And it's never been replaced. Sure, there's been a little power creep here and there on specific things, but generally, if you have a piece of gear from 10 years ago that's a legendary or an ascended gear, that gear is 100% still usable in raids today. Now, there are a few other systems that maybe if you're a Classic fan you might hate because you don't like it in retail, but it's very different here. There's the transmog system and there's the mount system, and you can collect different mount skins and different transmog and dyes and all that stuff to design your character. Fashion Wars 2, as it's called. Now, there is an in-game cash shop, but because you can convert gold into gems, it's not as intrusive as you might think it would be, because you can always just earn the thing you want in-game. So this does make Guild Wars 2 a little bit less pay-to-win, although I do wish it didn't have a cash shop at all. Now, the biggest piece of slander and the thing I hear the most about why people don't want to play this game is because they don't want to play a dead MMO. Now, if you think that you're willing to play Classic WoW, but you're not willing to play Guild Wars 2 because it's dead, look at the footage I just showed you. I just did a world boss today, and there was easily 100 or 200 players doing the world boss, and we killed it in like 5 seconds just because of the power of the Zerg. Versus Classic WoW, which had 27 people across all of the servers because for some reason there's a bug where you can do cross-server gameplay together. Just look at this boss fight I'm doing right now. The game is definitely not dead. I don't understand how people can say this, and it's stopping so many people from enjoying a game that they could love. This stupid misconception is just awful for the game. Now, I played Final Fantasy XIV for a little bit, but I just couldn't get into it. I couldn't get past the cat girls. Now, if you can't play Guild Wars 2 or Final Fantasy XIV, I'm sorry, but there's just not a lot of hope for you right now. But if you're like me and willing to go and try something outside of your comfort zone and pick up a new game, I highly recommend Guild Wars 2. And if you want to be a normie and go have sex with a bunch of cat girls, then sure, check out Final Fantasy XIV, I guess. Overall, I am very sad about Classic WoW's current state. I am not very faithful that Blizzard is going to be able to save it or anything. Even retail has been struggling, and I thought that the beginning of Shadowlands was actually a fun expansion, so I don't even know how they can fix that. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I'm definitely going to be playing Guild Wars 2 until something happens with WoW. I hope everyone is enjoying Final Fantasy XIV. I know it's the much more popular MMO, but if you're willing, give Guild Wars 2 a chance. Thanks for watching.